there he is down there from the 330 Sports Show himself. Justin Coffin is with us. Justin, thank you so much for joining us here on the OHIO podcast tonight.
Yeah, Eric and Chris, thank you so much for having me on. Appreciate it.
Justin, tell everybody here tonight who you are and a little bit about the 330 Sports Show and where they can find you and where they can find the show at.
Yeah, sure. So, Justin, I started this podcast thing about 3 years ago. I was actually a former teacher, former basketball coach, and COVID hit, and I kind of like hit the reset button on life. I changed careers. I now work for a family nonprofit in Northeast Ohio and do the 330 Sports Show on the side. It's kind of my side gig, kind of just have fun with that and get my sports outlet from that. So I am out of Youngstown, and I podcast down at Youngstown Studios right downtown in Youngstown, Ohio. I'm doing this from my basement tonight, but normally downtown Youngstown.
Yeah, I've seen several of your shows. It seems like it's pretty. I mean, I'm pretty proud of what Chris and I have built here, but that is next level stuff, man. I was like, woo, that'd be nice to have a studio like that. But
if you guys ever make your way up here, we'll have you down to the studio. I will say the owner of my studio, Joe Danier, he is a tech genius wizard, and we have like 3 different studios within our setup. So it's pretty legit.
That's pretty cool, man. Hey, and you know what? We are both going to be part of the Cleveland meetup there on July 15th. Looking forward to meeting you in person and getting to hang out with a bunch of Northeast Ohio Buckeyes. That's going to be a lot of fun. And so I don't know if you knew Lisa or how you met her or how she got in contact with you, but that's pretty cool, dude.
Yeah, I don't know her well, but her and I are from the same. I'm in Canfield, outside of Youngstown. Okay. Up here, and I believe that's where she's from as well. So just basically interacting how you guys do on social media, but have talked to her several times.
All right, so I've seen some of your pictures on social media. You have had the opportunity to meet the icon himself from Youngstown area, Jim Tressel, and tell me a little bit about what it was like to meet him, your impressions of Jim Tressel, and what it's like living in Youngstown and what the people there in Youngstown view him as.
Okay. Yeah, sure. So little background real quick, though. I have known Jim Tressel almost my entire life. His kids all went to Boardman High School, which is where I went to high school. And he, his daughter Carly is a year younger than me. And his one of his youngest daughters, Whitney, was the same age as my sister. So, I mean, she would, they would have sleepovers over our house, and Jim Tressel would be dropping his daughter off, and like we, just like through youth sports and stuff like that. So I knew him more as a parent than as a football coach until YSU, kind of became a multi-time national champion, and he kind of put himself on the map. So he's just a genuinely, what you see, those interviews where he kind of has that, I want to say like congressman, senator type approach. He really is the real deal. He's the genuine good guy, and he means well. I went at one time 5 to 6 years without seeing him, and you see him down at one of our restaurants downtown, and hey, Justin, how you doing? How's the family? Stuff like that. So he's just a genuinely good dude. So it was kind of cool. My first year at Ohio State was 2002. I I graduated in 2005, and Tressel's first year was the year before that, but the national championship year. So it was kind of cool to just be able to be a part of that as he went down to Columbus from Youngstown.
Now, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Now
Chris,
Justin,
go for it.
Yeah, Justin, I myself spent about 10 years up in the Youngstown, Warren area. You mentioned Canfield, greatest county fair in the state, by the way.
Yeah.
But been there many times. I remember Youngstown being an area that had a lot going on with the Penguins at the time I was up there. Would you say now that there's still a lot of buzz surrounding the Youngstown Penguins as far as the team goes, or are there more Buckeyes, or maybe some fans of that team over there in South Bend that kind of divide the area a little bit?
Yeah, sure, sure. So, I mean, why Youngstown is, I think a lot of people who are Youngstown State fans are still Ohio State fans. It kind of, you're from Youngstown, but you're rooting for the state team, and not just the state team, like really one of the blue bloods of college football. I think being from Ohio, whether it be Youngstown or Toledo or Cincinnati or even Columbus, most people are Ohio State fans, and that's very true in Youngstown. Now, there's a lot of Penguin fans here, obviously, being from Youngstown and the surrounding areas. Youngstown Warren's a fairly decent sized area. So YSU does have a very nice base of fans. And I think, there's been some down years where I think at YSU, they're trying to get attendance up and stuff like that. But a lot of times they play at the same time as Ohio State. And I think that will sometimes reflect in the numbers. So I think that's something YSU's maybe athletic department could look into, maybe not scheduling, when those, now we're going to be on CBS and NBC and all these different networks. Maybe look at when Ohio State's game is, and if it's a night game, make it a noon game. If it's a noon game, reverse that. But that, it's a little off topic. But yeah, a lot of Ohio State fans here, a lot of YSU fans here, obviously. But you sprinkle in a good amount of Notre Dame fans, being a very Italian town here in Youngstown, a lot of Roman Catholics, but yeah, a lot of Notre Dame fans, and you sprinkle in some Pitt fans, and I hate to say it, some Team Up North fans. Every now and then you'll see a few of them out. We won't shun them, but we also don't have to acknowledge them either.
They're everywhere. They're a cancer. They're a
especially
cancer.
in the last couple of years, they've crawled out.
Oh yeah. They're really into themselves right now. So let's keep the topic on Youngstown State going here, Justin. Tell me a little bit about their team this year. They got a big game with Ohio State coming up, so maybe you can preview for us just a little bit on what Ohio State fans can expect from the Penguins this year.
Yeah. So, being what's say June 18th, and happy Father's Day too, by the way, guys.
Yeah, you as well.
Thank you. But being June 18th, I'm not going to be able to give you the full X's and O's breakdown of YSU football. But what I can tell you is, they've lost some very important players, but they also have some important players coming back. Doug Phillips, who is a he's a good buddy of Jim Tressel. He's actually a good buddy of Marcus Freeman too. Worked with him down at the University of Cincinnati. Is the head coach. He's entering his 4th season with YSU. Overall, got off to a struggle. YSU actually, if you go back the last 3 years, so 2021, they actually played in the spring because of the COVID stuff. Were 1-6 in 2021, and then in 2021, the fall season, they went 3-7 that year. Last year, however, bounced back. They won 5 out of their last 6 games, finished 7-4. They did play Kentucky pretty tough down there in Lexington. They ended up losing like 28-0, but they played them tough on defense, where it was like a 14-0 game in the third quarter against Will Levis and the Kentucky Wildcats. So they play in probably, I would say, the equivalent of the SEC and FCS football, which is called the Missouri Valley Conference. So you got North Dakota State, South Dakota State, all those North Dakota, South Dakota schools in their conference. So they play a juggernaut of a schedule. And, year to year, I would say out of 10, every 10 years, they play 8 pretty big time schools, like once every year, usually. They played Michigan State in the past. They've beat Pitt in the past. Up at the FCS level, or I'm sorry, FBS level. But YSU, I would expect them to be really sound defensively, and offensively, they're going to have some struggles. They do have a quarterback, Mitch Davidson. He took over about halfway through last season. He's a local kid out of Salem, Ohio, down here. But 12 touchdowns, 1 interception in his last 7 games. But they are having to replace. Now, this is a crazy, crazy thing. When I was looking over these stats, Jaleel McLaughlin, who I believe signed with the Denver Broncos as an undrafted free agent, but he was the NCAA All Division. So we're talking Division 1, 2, 3, NAIA, any league. He was the all-time leading rusher in college football history that graduated from YSU this past year. He averaged almost 200 yards a game, and the Penguins as a whole averaged about 200 yards on the ground last year. So they're going to run the ball. Now, against Ohio State, we'll see. You got, not quite the levels of they're playing Dayton week 1. It's going to be a very different matchup heading into the shoe for the Buckeyes, or I'm sorry, for the Penguins against the Buckeyes. So I'm expecting YSU to play very sound, but I'm not having high hopes for them against the Buckeyes. My hope as an Ohio State Buckeye from Youngstown is, they play them tough for the first quarter, and Ohio State can maybe get some stats in and stuff, and then empty the bench, and maybe YSU can hang around there a little bit. But I wouldn't expect it to be less than a 28-point game.
So I got a couple listener questions here for you, Chris. You'll fire the next one after these, but this one's from Ryan Wickerham. You ever eat is that Case's MVR in Youngstown?
It's Case's MVR, yeah.
Okay.
And as I mentioned, Youngstown, a very Italian place, but Case's MVR actually has something on the menu called the Tressel Tortellini. Very good. It's highly recommended. And every summer, I don't know when the one is coming up, but they always do a fundraiser down there, and you get Bob Stoops coming in, Kirk Herbstreit, Tressel. You get a bunch of the old Youngstown coaches and big time coaches coming in for a fundraiser down there, because they're known for their bocce courts down there too. So
that's cool. Yeah. This one's from Larry Daniels. He says, "Welcome, Justin. Great hearing your memories. What was maybe a most memorable game or play you saw while you attended Ohio State?"
My first game as a student at the Shoe against Michigan was the 2002 year to put them into the national championship game. I think it was like 13-9. Also, my high school in Warren Harding up here is where Maurice Claret went. So I knew Maurice kind of growing up a little bit, and seeing him just do some awesome things as a freshman down at YSU was pretty cool. So I would have to put that up as probably my most memorable game attended, at least early on in my college career.
Okay. So, Justin, as a Buckeye fan,
yeah,
do you have any concerns going into this season?
I always have concerns. I mean, I'm ridiculously optimistic almost 90% of the time, but my 10% generally is what sticks. And what I'm worried about this year, and I wouldn't say even worried, it's more of just I haven't seen it yet, is I guess you could say 3 of the 11 most important positions on offense is obviously your quarterback. We haven't seen it out of McCord. We know the talent's there. So what's Kyle McCord going to be? Or is it going to be Devin Brown? We don't know, but I'm thinking it's going to be Kyle McCord. And then obviously the left and the right tackle. You're replacing Paris Johnson Jr. You're replacing DeJuan Jones. So to me, it's I'm not worried about the skill guys. Wide receiver, we got wide receivers for days. I think our 8th wide receiver could probably start on any Big Ten team. But running back, we got a healthy stable of guys. Tight end, we're pretty set there. But offensive line, more so at the left and right tackle position, what's that going to look like? And it looks like it's going to be Fryer and probably Simmons, the transfer that came in from San Diego State. But that's, is it going to be Tigre Shabola? Is it going to be, there's some doubt there, and I don't know, but so that's my biggest concern heading into the season.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, so let's continue on a little bit with that. And by the way, I think maybe one of the things you can do for us on your show is promote the idea that when Youngstown State comes to the shoe to play Ohio State, Jim Tressel gets to dot the I that day.
Yes, I've been saying that for about a year now. It just makes sense.
It does, doesn't it?
Ohio State and YSU may never play again after this year. Ohio State, if they go to the 9-game schedule and, with a new playoff format coming in 2024, they might, those like MAC school type games might, go to a bigger opponent. I don't know. I don't know what the future holds for scheduling, but who knows if they're going to be scheduling FCS schools, and I hope they don't. But if they do, I hope it's YSU just so the money stays in state. But let Tressel dot the I. I mean, he's no longer the president at YSU. His term was done, I believe, in February at YSU. He's done so much good for both of those universities, so many national titles, and it's the perfect opportunity. Why? You said it perfectly. Why not? This is the time.
Yep, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about Ryan Day from Tressel today.
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe Ryan Day is currently on the hot seat, or will he be on the hot seat if he loses number 3, or would he possibly be fired in your mind? Where do you sit currently on the pulse of Ryan Day and where he sits with everything that's going on?
So I don't know where your viewers stand on this, but I have a feeling I think I'm in the majority of, I don't think Ryan Day should be on the hot seat at all. Now, let me explain, because I think what Ryan Day has done is amazing. I understand he has lost 2 in a row to Michigan. I understand that 100%. However, I think the 2021 loss, the better team won. I really do think Michigan was the better team in 2021. Last year's loss, and he's owned up to this. He said he was in his own head. He was, telling those guys, we're going to go out and just whoop them. And I think Michigan was in Ohio State's head last year, in my opinion. Now, I think Ryan Day, if he loses game number 3 in a row, which I don't even want to think about, will be then on the hot seat. I don't think he should be on the hot seat now because, look around college football. Who's better than Ryan Day right now outside of maybe Kirby Smart? Nick Saban's had a couple years where, they've and he's getting older. I heard you guys. I heard your talk about Gene Smith earlier, and who would you replace him with? My question would be, who would you replace Ryan Day with that's going to be any better? Assuming, I know a lot of people might say, "Oh, Mike Vrabel, bring him in." Is he going to leave the NFL? College is a harder job. College football right now is a harder job. It is a 12-month-a-year job. Now, NFL, that's no cakewalk either. But I think Ryan Day is the right man for this job, and I think he's gonna prove everybody right about keeping him as the Buckeye coach for hopefully a long run. But he's got to turn that tide against Michigan.
Chris, before you ask the next question, I want to respond to this real quickly. So one of the things that, as a Buckeye fan and as Buckeye Nation as a whole, I don't think is really realized is the fact that Ryan Day is learning on the job.
Mm-hmm.
You look at every former coach before Ryan Day, they got to cut their teeth somewhere else. I mean, let's take Urban, for instance. Bowling Green, Utah, then Florida, right? Uh, you have Cooper was over in Arizona before
I
he
think
came
even
over
like
to us.
Tulsa or Tulane before that
Yes.
too.
Yeah. Right. So you have that. Tressel obviously learned how to coach there in Youngstown, won some national championships in Youngstown. I know that level's different, but winning a national championship is still winning a national championship.
Right.
He had a national championship mindset and program in place that he brought to Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Day didn't have any of those things yet. And so I think what we are experiencing are growing pains for what could be a legendary coach down the road. He's not there yet, but that's not to say he can't get there. The problem is our expectations. This is not really a problem. It's the standard. The standard is the standard.
Right.
And I don't want to lower that standard even for, the sake of Ryan learning on the job. But there is one other coach out there who's learning at a very big program who is an Ohio State alum, happens to be at probably the closest thing to Ohio State you can coach at in South Bend, Indiana.
Sure.
And if he beats Ryan this year and Ryan loses to that team up north for a third time, if you're Gene Smith, don't you owe it to yourself to at least have a conversation and see possibly maybe? I mean, he is. I mean, that's. I know that's kind of comparing a little bit of apples to oranges. However, I just feel like where we're at right now and where, you know, I'm with you, Justin. I hope he wins this game this year and can get this thing turned around and goes and wins us a national championship. And then he can say, check mark, I've done it. Now let's go do it again.
Right.
But, we also have to prepare ourselves for plan B in case plan A doesn't work. And so that's kind of where I think if we were to, because a lot of people are talking Brian Hartline will be the next. I don't think Brian Hartline is going to be the next head coach.
No.
Because
He's
that's
not
another.
ready yet, Eric.
No.
Exactly. It's another Ryan Day situation, and I cannot see Gene Smith saying, "Well, it didn't work the first time; it'll work the second time." And I just don't see Luke Fickell jumping ship and coming back home after he just got to Wisconsin.
Sure.
So that's kind of my feelings on it. Do you have any take on that before Chris asks the next question?
Yeah, the only thing I would say about, a Marcus Freeman or a Brian Hartline or a Mike Vrabel, all those guys do have roots here in Ohio. And I think, you look at Urban, you look at Tressel, those guys are all from here, which matters, and
Absolutely.
You look at the rivalry and you're born into it. I believe Day is from New England, New Hampshire area. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I'm right on that, but I know he's from the Northeast. And a lot of people might say, well, hey, he doesn't. No, he's in this rivalry. It means something to him. And doesn't mean the same to an Urban Meyer. Probably not. But when you're coaching that team, you are fully invested in that rivalry. In my opinion. Now, I think we learned a lot about Ryan Day in that Georgia game. And I think he learned a lot about himself. And I think we're going to see a different type of Ryan Day this year. And he is going to be one of those more all-out type coaches now, show a lot more emotion, not be so stoic on the sideline. And I think you play each play a lot more meaningful. And I think he's given up a little bit of the offensive control, which will let him oversee the whole kind of show this year. So I think we're going to see a different kind of Ryan Day this year, a more aggressive Ryan Day, a more energetic, a more enthusiastic Ryan Day. And I think bringing a coach like Laurinaitis in, that shows, hey, this guy knows about the rivalry. I'm bringing in a coach that will be able to attest to this defense and this offense and speak to these players with someone that's lived this rivalry. So, just my opinion. I know I threw a lot out there, but I don't know. I don't even want to think about the next guy yet because I think Ryan Day is the right guy in my opinion. So.
Fair enough.
I'm gonna sit quietly on this one, Eric.
I think I know where Chris stands on this one.
Yeah.
So, Justin, what are your expectations for the Buckeyes in 2023?
Well, I will tell you guys, I've already placed my bet at over 10.5 wins. So I got basically even money for 10.5 wins. Now I know there's a tough schedule. First time. Do you guys know this? First time since 1895 that Ohio State's playing 6 road games.
I did not know that.
That's pretty insane. So 6 games at home, 6 games on the road. For the most part, I think you break it down to really like 4 games. It's going to be Notre Dame. It's going to be obviously I don't want to rank them in order, but Notre Dame, Wisconsin, Penn State, and Michigan. Those are your 4 right there. And I mean, you don't want to let down against the Purdue or someone like that, but those are your 4 games. I think talent-wise, they are going to be equally, if not better, than every one of those teams. Penn State's going to be good. Michigan's going to be good. Wisconsin knows they got their ass kicked last year by Ohio State in the shoe. And Fickle's going to have something to say. So I think that's going to be a tough game. By the way, on Halloween weekend, I believe, in Wisconsin. And then we all know what's on the line against Michigan. So to me, I think this team probably drops 1 game, and I think they're an 11-1 team. And I'm hoping that game is not the last weekend of November.
Yeah, me too. I'm really struggling right now as I'm looking over the schedule and diving into the different teams and things. I'll be honest with you, Justin, that game in Wisconsin is scaring me. That is a very good team. I have a feeling it's going to be a night game in Madison, Halloween weekend. Those students are going to be lit. It's not going to be jump around. It's going to be bring the house down is what it's going to be. And that one scares me. The one in South Bend scares me. Although if we drop that one, it's not the end of the world if we can bounce back and win the conference. But that one scares me. And of course, I don't want to admit this, but I think I've been thinking about it, but I haven't said it until tonight, and you said it. I think they're in our head. When talking about the team up north. And that to me feels very much like what happened in the 90s. We had so many good teams. We had better teams than them over half the time. And it didn't matter because they were in our head. That being said, we're in overtime already. Let's kind of wrap this up, Justin. What does it mean to Justin Coffin to be a Buckeye?
I mean, I've spent a lot of my life in Columbus, Ohio. It's a very special place to me. Ohio State, I have so many memories from, and I still continue to live it, whether I get down there on a game day weekend or whatever it might be. But being a Buckeye, just, the 90% of fans that are great. Again, I don't want to, hate on anyone, but we have a great fan base, probably the largest fan base in the country, in any sport, I think you could say. Probably get pushback on that, but to me, there's just something special about it. Just like the camaraderie it brings. I'm talking to you guys, which we've never met each other until tonight. We're talking on a podcast about, in June about a season that's still 3 months away. So, that tells you it's important. It's important.
Right.
And I also root for the Browns on Sundays. So being an Ohio State fan gives me some hope. Whereas the Cleveland Browns have not given me that kind of joy in my life. But But you know what? Being an Ohio State fan is special because there's just so much to it. It's not just the Saturdays in the fall. There's just so much more to it, and it's bigger than just that. But the horseshoe, the friends you make, the the family you meet, all that, all that good stuff is just so great about being a Buckeye.
Yeah, you and Chris share that dog pound there in common, you two. My dad raised me right. He raised me as a Cincinnati fan. So my brother posted that this morning on Facebook, thanking my dad on Father's Day for raising us right.
Yeah.
I still remember the mistake by the lake comment. But anyways, we're looking forward to going up to Cleveland and meeting you, Justin, and getting together with a bunch of crazy Ohio State fans. July 15th. Check out our Facebook, Twitter. You can find the links there. Click on the link. Go there. Order your tickets. There's limited space. You're going to want to make sure to get your spot in there. The tickets are free. You can meet Chris, myself. Justin will be there. Scarlet and Game podcast will be there. And, of course, Lisa, the Buckeye football fangirl, will be there. We're going to have a great time. Justin, tell everybody again where they can find you on social media and where they can find the 330 Sports Show.
Yeah, pretty much all the social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, at 330 Sports Show. And we also stream live through our studio page at Youngstown Studio.
Beautiful. There you go, guys. Check it out. It's really good. It's not just Buckeyes. They're talking of sports in general, a lot of stuff, Northeast Ohio sports, national sports. I really enjoyed their show. Check that out. And of course, make sure you check out our social media pages as well. We got some really cool things coming down the pike for you guys. Chris and I, we're excited to make some announcements coming up. But we're going to be all over the place this season. Starts next month, July 15th, Northeast Ohio, the Cleveland get-together with Buckeye Nation. Make sure you're there. Justin, thank you so much for being a part of the show today. We really enjoyed having you coming on. Can't wait to have you come back. Maybe we can bring you on as a special guest during the season. How's that sound?
Anytime. I appreciate it, Eric and Chris.
And thank you, all of you out there in Buckeye Nation, for watching. 8 o'clock next Sunday night, we will be back. It's going to be the big Notre Dame preview show. John Kennedy himself from the Always Irish show. We're just calling the whole show the John Kennedy Experience. Chris and I might just ask a question, sit back, and let the guy explode, because that's what he does. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So make sure you're here next Sunday night, live right here on YouTube, Facebook. Mark your calendars. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, ring the bell so you don't miss us. All of that good stuff. We really do appreciate all of you coming on once again. Remember, be kind to one another. I owe someone's OH, and sing Carmen, Ohio with all your heart. Until next time, OH!
I owe!